Do you ever feel like you're outsourcing your happiness? Like you're waiting for someone else's permission to feel good about yourself? Maybe you post a picture online and spend the next hour obsessively checking for likes, with each notification giving you a tiny hit of relief. Or perhaps it's more intimate. You measure your desirability by how often your partner initiates sex, and their lack of interest feels like a verdict on your worth. Do you get that sinking feeling of dread or emptiness when you're alone, like a key part of you is just missing? What if you could build an inner strength so solid, so deeply rooted, that nothing and no one could ever really shake you? For too long, we've been trained to look for validation outside of ourselves. We chase achievements, relationships, and other people's approval, thinking that's the secret to happiness. But that path only leads to what you could call situational happiness. It's fragile because it depends entirely on things you can't control. When the praise dries up, a relationship ends, or you hit a major setback, your whole sense of self can shatter right along with it. It's an exhausting cycle of emotional dependency where you're constantly relying on others to tell you you're okay. But there is another way, a path that leads inward to creating an unbreakable emotional core. Now, emotional independence isn't about becoming a hermit or detaching from the world. It's about building a deep inner resilience that lets you face any storm because you know that you are your own anchor. It's the ability to validate yourself from within, to build relationships out of choice instead of need, and to know with total certainty that you are enough all on your own. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you 7 mindset shifts that will transform you from being emotionally dependent to emotionally unbreakable. It's time to stop letting the world dictate your happiness and start building a fortress of inner strength that no one can ever tear down. First up, you have to see yourself not as a passive passenger in your emotional life, but as the active architect of your inner world. Too many of us operate with what you could call an external locus of control. We think our feelings are things that just happen to us. Traffic on the way to work makes you angry. A partner's bad mood ruins your day and makes you feel unattractive. A sexual rejection makes you feel worthless. We feel like victims of our own emotional weather. But an emotionally unbreakable person, they flip that script. They cultivate an internal locus of control. The core belief that while you can't control what happens to you, you always have control over how you respond. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus was born a slave, meaning his body and his circumstances were completely owned by others. Yet he taught that his mind was always his own. He famously said, "Some things are up to us and some are not." He argued that focusing on what is not in our power, like the actions or desires of others, is the root of our unhappiness. The moment you blame someone else for how you feel, you hand them your power. You make them 100% responsible for fixing it, which leaves you 100% helpless. To become the architect, you first need to survey the land. This is all about self-awareness. Start tracking your emotional states like a meteorologist tracks weather patterns, with curiosity, not judgment. Journaling is an amazing tool for this. Notice the patterns. Do you feel most insecure on Sunday evenings? Does a specific family member's opinion send you scrambling for reassurance? Does sexual rejection from a partner send you into a spiral of self-doubt? Recognizing your triggers is the first step to disarming them. The next step is to consciously choose your response. Imagine a tiny space between an event and your reaction. In that space, that's where your power lives. So when you get criticized, instead of that automatic gut punch of shame, you can pause. You can ask yourself, is this feedback useful? Can I learn something here? Or is this just someone else's opinion that has zero bearing on my actual worth? Just like that, you take back the controls. This shift from reacting to responding is the first brick you lay in your emotional fortress. You're no longer at the mercy of the world. You're in the driver's seat of your own mind. The second shift is about dismantling the external validation machine and building your own powerful, self-sustaining internal validation engine. Our society is basically a giant feedback loop. Likes, promotions, compliments. We're conditioned to measure our worth by these external yardsticks. This extends deeply into our intimate lives. where we might feel that we aren't truly sexy or desirable unless a partner validates it for us. The dependent mindset says, they don't want me, so I must not be attractive. They might start seeking validation elsewhere or changing themselves to fit a perceived ideal. Building an internal validation engine means learning to source your self-esteem and sense of desirability from within. The unbreakable person says, I feel good in my own skin. I am proud of the person I am. My worth and sexiness are inherent. This isn't arrogance. It's a quiet, stable confidence that's immune to both praise and criticism. In ancient Rome, countless artisans and engineers built magnificent aqueducts and temples. Their names are lost to history, but their pride was in the work itself, in a well-laid stone, a perfect arch. Their validation came from the integrity of their craft, not the applause of the crowd. So, how do you build this thing? You start by focusing on your own goals and values. Ask yourself, what actually matters to me? What kind of person do I want to be? What would make me feel proud even if nobody else ever knew? Your internal engine runs on personal integrity when your actions line up with your values. Next, you have to become your own hype man through positive self-talk. An unbreakable mindset swaps the inner critic for a compassionate coach. When you mess up, instead of beating yourself down, you acknowledge it, learn from it, and offer yourself forgiveness. A great exercise here is to celebrate your own wins, no matter how small. Finished a tough workout? Acknowledge your discipline. Handled a stressful meeting with grace? Recognize your emotional strength. Start a wins journal. Every night, write down 3 things you did that you're proud of. This literally rewires your brain to look for validation from your own actions. Your worth isn't a stock that rises and falls with public opinion or a partner's gaze. It's a fixed asset, and you own it outright. The third shift is to embrace radical acceptance. So much of our emotional pain comes from our resistance to reality. We argue with it. We tell ourselves, this shouldn't be happening, or it's not fair. This resistance is like trying to push a river upstream. It's exhausting, and the river doesn't care. Radical acceptance isn't about approving of a bad situation. It's looking at a breakup, a sexual rejection, or a personal failure and saying, okay, this is the reality. By accepting the facts, you stop wasting energy fighting what you can't change and free it up to focus on what you can control. Your next move. Someone trapped in dependency sees a setback as proof they're helpless. But an unbreakable person, grounded in acceptance, asks, given that this happened, what am I going to do now? One state. To practice this, start noticing when you're arguing with reality. Listen for should have and it's not fair. When you catch yourself, bring yourself back to the facts. Instead of, I can't believe they don't desire me, they should want me, shift to, they expressed a lack of desire in this moment. I am feeling hurt and rejected. The first is a fight you can't win. The second is a fact, which lets you start processing the actual emotion. It's about letting go of perfectionism and accepting that life is messy. True strength isn't about avoiding falls. It's about how good you get at getting back up. This next shift is about moving from being fused with your emotions to becoming the mindful observer of them. For most of us, when a big emotion like jealousy or fear shows up, we become it. It's not, I feel jealous. It's, I am jealous. And that fusion gives the emotion total control. Think about seeing your partner talk to someone attractive. The dependent reaction is to immediately become a ball of insecurity, imagining worst-case scenarios and letting it ruin your entire night. Emotional unbreakability requires creating space between you and your feelings. Mindfulness, a practice central to ancient traditions like Buddhism, is the tool that builds that space. It teaches you to observe your emotions like clouds passing in the sky. They are temporary events happening within you. They are not who you are. When you can observe your anger without becoming it, you can choose not to send that nasty text. When you can watch your jealousy without letting it swallow you, you can approach your partner from a place of curiosity, not an accusation. A simple way to practice this is the 90-second rule from brain scientist Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. When an emotion is triggered, there's a 90-second chemical process in your body. Any feeling that lasts longer is because you're replaying the thought loop that keeps triggering it. So your job is to just watch that physiological storm for 90 seconds without judgment. Feel the heat in your face, the tightness in your chest. Name it. Ah, this is jealousy. And just allow it to move through you without latching onto the story your brain is trying to sell you. Another great technique is practicing emotional granularity. Instead of just saying, I feel bad, get specific. Are you feeling disappointed, frustrated, lonely, or embarrassed? Naming your emotions with precision turns them from an overwhelming tidal wave into a manageable data point. By becoming the observer, you stop being a puppet to your feelings. You realize you are the vast, stable sky, and your emotions are just the weather. The storm might be intense, but it can't actually harm the sky. We're more than halfway through, and if this is hitting home for you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We explore ideas like this every week to give you the tools for a stronger, more independent life. Drop a comment and let me know which of these mindset shifts you're going to try first. All right, let's get back to it. Mindset shift number 5 is about becoming what the writer Nassim Nicholas Taleb calls anti-fragile. A fragile object shatters under pressure. A resilient object bounces back. But an anti-fragile object actually gets stronger from pressure. Think of the Hydra from Greek mythology. When one head was cut off, two grew back in its place. Emotionally dependent people are often fragile. A romantic rejection or a period of sexual inactivity feels like proof of their inadequacy, so they avoid taking emotional risks. But an unbreakable person sees challenges as opportunities. They metabolize hardship into fuel. This is the growth mindset on steroids. A real-world example of anti-fragility is the human immune system. Exposure to germs and viruses in small, manageable doses prompts it to create antibodies, making it stronger and better prepared for future attacks. To get here, you have to change your relationship with failure. Stop seeing it as an indictment of your character, and you start seeing it as data. When a date goes badly, you don't say, I'm a failure. You ask, what can I learn from this? What did that experience teach me about what I want? Every mistake becomes a lesson. A powerful historical example is the Roman Republic after the Battle of Cannae, a catastrophic defeat where they lost tens of thousands of soldiers. A fragile state would have collapsed. A resilient one might have survived. But Rome was anti-fragile. They analyzed their failure, reformed their legions, and developed new strategies that ultimately made their military more dominant than ever before. A practical way to build this is to intentionally step out of your comfort zone. Ask someone out. Go to a social event alone. Each time you face a small discomfort and come out the other side, you're teaching your nervous system that you are capable. You're building that anti-fragile muscle, one rep at a time. Failure loses its power. It's no longer a verdict on who you are, but simply an event on your journey. This 6th shift is about getting your hands dirty and becoming a self-sufficient steward of your own life. Emotional dependency often walks hand in hand with learned helplessness. We start to believe we just can't handle life on our own. Whether it's managing our finances, fixing a leaky faucet, or just being alone on a Saturday night without a sexual partner and not feeling like we're crawling out of our skin. Becoming a self-sufficient steward means you actively build competence. This isn't about refusing help. It's about knowing you don't need a rescuer. Every practical skill you learn is a vote of confidence in yourself. Learn to cook a great meal for one. Create a budget and stick to it. Figure out how to change a flat tire. These acts of self-reliance build a deep physical sense of self-esteem that no amount of praise can ever match. They prove to you through action that you've got this. A critical part of this is learning to set and enforce healthy boundaries, especially in intimate relationships. Boundaries are the rules you set for how others get to treat you. Emotionally dependent people often have weak boundaries because they are terrified of disapproval or abandonment. They say yes to sexual acts they are not comfortable with because they don't want to disappoint their partner. Learning to say no is a superpower for emotional independence. It communicates to yourself and to the world that your needs, desires, and limits matter. Start small. Say no to a small request you don't have time for. State your boundary calmly and clearly. I care about you, but I'm not comfortable doing that. It will feel uncomfortable at first, but every time you do it, you reinforce your own self-respect. Finally, this means taking full responsibility for your own self-care. And I'm not talking about bubble baths. Real self-care is the disciplined, daily practice of tending to your physical and emotional needs. It means getting enough sleep, eating food that fuels you, and moving your body. When you're tired, hungry, and stressed, your emotional resilience tanks. Taking care of yourself is not an indulgence. It's a non-negotiable part of building a strong mind. Our final mindset shift is cultivating purposeful detachment. This isn't the cold detachment of someone who's afraid to get hurt. It's a wise detachment that comes from having a source of meaning so profound that it's bigger than any one person, job, or circumstance. Emotional dependency happens when we make another person, and often the sexual intimacy we share with them, the center of our universe. Our entire purpose gets wrapped up in them. So when that person leaves or the relationship dynamic changes, our entire world feels like it's collapsing. Because it is. They were our world. Purposeful detachment means finding a why that is bigger than any single relationship. Consider the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He faced plagues, wars, and personal loss, yet in his private writings, he constantly oriented himself toward his purpose, to serve the common good and live a life of virtue. This didn't mean he didn't love or feel pain, but his core identity was anchored in his mission, not his circumstances. A more modern example is Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. He observed that the prisoners who had a purpose, a reason to live beyond their suffering, like a loved one to reunite with or a book to write, were the most likely to endure. Frankl himself found meaning in his suffering, which allowed him to maintain his humanity in the most horrific conditions. When you have a purpose, a creative passion, a mission to help others, a spiritual path, relationships become a wonderful part of your life, but not the entirety of it. You can love deeply and enjoy profound intimacy, but you do it from a place of wholeness, not neediness. To find this, you have to spend time alone. Ask the big questions. What do I want my life to stand for? What makes me feel connected to something larger than myself? Let your answers guide you. This mindset allows you to love people and experiences without desperately clinging to them. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain. When you lose someone you love, it will hurt. But the pain won't destroy you because your core identity is still intact, anchored to a purpose that is yours alone. This is the ultimate emotional freedom. So those are the 7 mindset shifts that form the foundation of an emotionally unbreakable life. It's about becoming the architect of your own mind, building your own validation engine, accepting reality like the wise farmer, observing your feelings without judgment, becoming anti-fragile like ancient Rome, taking ownership of your life and connecting to a deeper purpose like Marcus Aurelius. Each one of these is a step away from that fragile state of dependency and a step toward a solid core of inner strength. This isn't a quick fix. It's a lifelong practice of showing up for yourself, taking responsibility, and cultivating a deep, unshakable relationship with the person you see in the mirror. The journey to becoming emotionally unbreakable is really the journey home to yourself. It's about realizing that the strength, the validation, and the happiness you've been looking for out there in the world, it's been inside you all along, just waiting for you to build it. The path is simple, but it isn't easy. It takes courage and it takes patience. But the reward is the greatest freedom you can ever know. The deep security of knowing that no matter what storms come your way, your anchor will hold. You will be unshakable. If this video gave you a new way to think, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more content on building a stronger mind and a freer life. Thanks for watching. Now go out there and start building.